Hey there, welcome to Week 15 of Beat the Odds. It is crunch time in pro football. We got a big show today. In fact, Jack even combed his hair, so you know it's big. Beat the Odds starts right now.
From our Las Vegas studios, this is Beat the Odds, sponsored by Superbook at the Westgate Las Vegas Resort and Casino, and powered by SportsGrid.
All right, let's do this. Welcome inside our Las Vegas studio. I'm Dave Hall.
And I'm Mariah Janos. This season is receding faster than Dave's hairline. Just 4 weeks to go in the regular season, and the boys will get you ready for the big games. I'm sorry, you just make it too easy.
I even tried the shampoo.
It doesn't work?
All right, well, clearly we got sassy Mariah today. Big surprise. Also coming up on the show, Jack is looking for spots, and no, Mariah, not bald spots. Teddy has the biggest red flag to look out for. Plus, we'll have our prop showdown and best bets.
And I'll be chatting with the beautifully coiffed Brandon Marshall about some of the biggest games this weekend. That could be potential previews of what we see in the postseason. Our friends from SportsGrid are here too.
Hey Vegas, it's time to beat the odds again. Donnie Rightside and Joe Lisi previewing a couple overperformers and underperformers on Sunday. How about A.J. Brown of Philadelphia? Really struggled against Carolina, and then also some overperformers. How about Tyreek Hill of Miami going off against New York? Now back to you guys out in Vegas.
All right, back with the boys. How we doing today?
So far, so good. Yeah, there's bald spots everywhere with some of the things going on in pro football. So you've got to comb over. Some of that spray stuff would go a long way in my world for sure.
As always, a perfect analogy. Teddy, how are we?
I'm just fine, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
my ball spot's coming too.
Well, it comes for all of us.
Shockers and stunners, though, Teddy, a lot going on.
Sure. Let's start with some shockers from this past weekend. Mac Jones and Jacksonville rally in the fourth from the dead. Straight up win for Jacksonville at Tennessee. Carolina giving Philly everything they could handle as plus 14-point underdogs. Carolina hanging tough. Seattle outright upset at Arizona. That Seattle defense is giving Kyler Murray fits in both meetings. Another 2 interception performance from Kyler Murray. We'll talk about him a little later in the show. And Dallas, the bad beat of the weekend. Plus 5.5, tie game. You're getting the ball back with less than 2 to play, and then, oops. Well, the block punt didn't exactly work out in Dallas's favor. Cincy with the winning cover. No fun if you had Dallas plus the points.
These are the things that are funny in September, like the block punt with the I'm touching it when I'm not supposed to type things. That's funny in September. Now, your bankroll's a little bit lower. Those things matter a lot more. And you've got to be able to adjust on the fly. We talk about team. Who's the most profitable team in pro football right now?
Who?
Carolina. Over the last 5 weeks, 5-0. So you had to have adjusted about a month ago if you want to be sweeping the board. No other team's doing that, so got to be on your toes.
Yeah, and we got to talk about some stunners as well. We'll start with Kansas City. How do they do it? Dave Hall.
Because they're good. That's
how do they do it? 15-0 in one-score games the last 2 years, and the first team in league history to have 3 different kickers hitting game-winning walk-off field goals. No Harrison Butker, no problem. How do they do it, Dave?
I mean, they're good. They're talented. And there's maybe some voodoo magic involved.
You're worried, though, right? You've got to be worried as a Kansas City fan. Does this continue when the games start to matter? It's win or go home.
I don't know. Is it luck, or is it a team that just knows how to make the winning plays in the moments that winning plays need to be made?
They certainly have.
Mariah didn't like. I even called her Maria. Mariah didn't like that answer.
Yeah, third-string kickers getting it done off the upright. That may catch up. We'll see.
Sure. 2 more stunners worth noting. The money pouring in on Chicago against San Fran, and then San Fran played their best game in months in a blowout victory. And Kirk Cousins, we got to talk about him because it's a collapse now. 0 touchdowns, 8 interceptions the last 4 games, all Atlanta losses.
If I could get back the money I've lost on Cousins and Chicago over the last month, I could buy a new hairpiece and a Pinto.
That much, huh?
Big week.
What does a hairpiece go for these days?
I don't know. I'm going to find out, though.
I
can't afford it right now. I've got to get off Atlanta, off Chicago.
All right, fair enough. Well, I get it. Unless you root for Patrick Mahomes and KC, they're annoying, I know, even for Vegas sports books. And Mariah over here, or wait, Mariah, sorry, she's at the Superbook Westgate Las Vegas.
Thanks, Dave. I'm here with EVP of Superbook Operations, Jay Kortegay. Jay, we're on to week 15. We're getting towards the finish line here, but how did you guys do overall last week in week 14?
Let's call it even. We won some, lost some. I know that there were some mixed results around the country. Unfortunately, we were one game away. If we could have got that LA team to knock off that Kansas City team for once, we would have had a huge day. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. It ended up being a break-even day.
And heading into the weekend, any early action you're seeing, especially around that Kansas City team?
Well, we're certainly seeing some action against that Kansas City team as they opened at 6 at Cleveland. It's all the way down to 4. People are playing against this team now, especially some of the sharps. Some other sharp action on Buffalo plus 2.5 against Detroit. And New England is also a favorable play for the sharps this weekend as they have taken plus 6 while they visit Arizona.
As we get down to the wire here, you've got the contenders and then you've got the elite. How do you see the elite separating themselves as the favorites for the championship?
You're definitely seeing the cream rise now as some of the elite teams are separating themselves from the contenders and certainly the pretenders. AFC is a 4-team race. Let's look at Buffalo, Kansas City, and you have Baltimore and Pittsburgh. On the other side of things, you have a huge gap between Philadelphia and Detroit and the rest of the conference. So right now, it's looking like a 6-team race.
All right, Jay, thank you so much. Dave will send it back to you in studio.
All right, Mariah, thank you. When it comes to betting on bad teams, Teddy has a red flag you need to look out for. Plus, Jack is looking for some spots, and he found 2 of them. See what he spotted next.
One of those red flags, calling your co-host the wrong name, it might be. Before we head to break, though, in Week 14, LA wide receiver Puka Nacua recorded his 159th career reception. That's the second most receptions through a player's first 25 career games in league history. But which player had more? The answer after the break.
Beat the Odds is sponsored by Superbook Westgate Las Vegas and powered by Sports Grid.
Welcome back. Before the break, we asked you in Week 14, LA wide receiver Puka Nacua recorded his 159th career reception. That's the second most receptions through a player's first 25 career games in league history. But which player had more? The answer, Odell Beckham Jr. He had 176 receptions through his first 25 games with the G-Men. All right, it's time to welcome in our champ, Brandon Marshall. Some interesting matchups in this weekend's games. I want to start with the low man on the totem pole, though. Carolina is favored for the first time this season, taking on Dallas. Carolina able to keep things close against Philly. Can they take advantage of this opportunity against a Dak-less Dallas team?
Well, they have been playing inspired. You know, I'm not sure whatever happened, you know, with Bryce Young. Apparently he needed to be benched. But at times, you know, somebody needs some discipline in that way. You know, I think they're playing inspired. They're playing together. So, you know, I'm thinking Bryce Young will get another shot next year, even though they'll have a high draft pick. Will they have a chance against Dallas? They have a chance. I don't think they'll end up coming out on top. You know, Dallas has been playing decent as well, even without Dak. You know, Cooper Rush is actually a solid backup quarterback in this league. So, you know, I think they have a chance, but they won't pull it out.
All right, now moving to an AFC matchup with playoff implications, Houston versus Miami. Houston has struggled at home this season, not winning in NRG Stadium since October, while Miami has won 4 out of 5. Does Miami get it done and get closer to solidifying themselves in that wild card race?
I think they can get it done, you know, and honestly, because they're playing desperate football, and they have to, right? They missed all those games with Tua. If Tua played in those games, they would probably be, you know, sitting in a better position for the playoff race, but you know, seeing as they're not, I think they're desperate, and you know, typically desperate teams don't have much to lose, so they're going to throw everything at Houston. So I'm really excited to see what happens, you know, from Miami. And it's not like they're going to a cold weather city. If they were going to somewhere, you know, where it's cold, I'd be like, there's no way. But Houston, they have a shot. And
really quick, just one team or the other, Detroit or Buffalo this weekend?
Detroit.
Detroit?
I'm going Detroit, man. It's at home, right? It's in Detroit. I got Detroit. They're playing amazing football. But it is an MVP game for Josh Allen. If he wins this game, I think he'll be the MVP.
It's going to be a really interesting matchup. I can't wait for that one. All right, Jack found 2 games that got his attention, so let's send it over to the big guy.
Yeah, Cooper Rush gives me a migraine. It's hard to watch him. Teddy actually inspired me this segment. We talked last week about, in his best bet, a spot for LA versus Buffalo going cross country. And it dawned on me that we haven't talked enough about that when you head into December, finding spots. There's no more buys, so these teams do have a schedule they have to keep up. Some of these spots are easier than others. So let's look at a couple of them. Tennessee. Nobody wants to play Tennessee. Well, nobody wants to play Carolina, so I don't really care. We're trying to test tickets. So Tennessee playing Cincinnati. The one thing we know about Cincinnati, besides Joe Burrow, it's really hot girls, is defense is not any good. They don't stop the run. They're giving up a lot of points. Tennessee, when they play like defenses, have been scoring some points. Now, other times they look inept, so you don't want to play them every week. But Tennessee is not a team that they're going to get up for Cincinnati. I expect a flat spot. So getting some points, let's play Tennessee in a spot like that. I think that's got some value in a spot situation. The other one, anybody playing the G-men is a good spot, because the G-men just simply are not getting it done. You can go to one of their games for $1 right now. By the way, you can sit in that stadium. So if you've never been, now's probably the time.
And you'd be overpaying.
Right. I mean, it's going to be cold, but you're going to get to experience a game for $1. We talk about ticket prices, not so much when the G-men are playing. 0-5 straight up. They're playing a Baltimore team that has got to be upset. Coming off a bye, coming off a loss to Philly. I think laying the big number is a good spot here, as the G-men are one of those teams that I think has kind of phoned it in. Even though they're trying hard, they just don't have the pieces right now. So I like Baltimore minus the points there.
And it looks like Tommy DeVito is going to start again. So,
which the sub sandwiches and that great, not so much a quarterback, but anybody from DeVito.
Well, Jack, you were inspired by me. I was inspired by you, because this is about teams going nowhere.
Do you guys need to hug it out?
What a love fest today.
Oh, wow.
I try to rip you right there.
My heart.
This is about teams going nowhere, Jack. Yeah. Part 2. We talked about it a little bit last week. And look what happened last week. The G-men covered against New Orleans. Jacksonville got the straight-up win. Carolina got the cover and the money against Philly. Gangrene took Miami to overtime. Cleveland, Vegas both fought, despite not covering. Chicago was basically the only no-show among the quote-unquote bottom feeders, the team quote-unquote nothing to play for. Don't let the media fool you that these teams have nothing to play for. The point spread is always the great equalizer. They don't have to win these games straight up in order to cover numbers. And we talk about 2 things to be aware of. First, the teams with the first-year head coaches, they don't quit, because those are young teams, rebuilding teams. The young guys get their opportunities come December. Those aren't teams that are going to throw in the towel. That being said, this time of year we do start to worry about the teams that had big expectations for this year, teams that were supposed to be good that aren't. Those teams, maybe you tap the brakes a little bit before you get involved.
Bad teams playing for jobs, so players got to play well each week.
Brennan and Mariah was talking about Miami early. They're trying to make a run late in the season. I can't talk today. Tyreek Hill is finally getting hot. Here's Sports Grid with more.
Overperformers, something we love to talk about on Sunday afternoon. Donnie Wrightside along with Joe Lisi here. We're going to start in Miami in a game versus New York. Divisional battle. Miami wins that football game 32-26 in overtime. And you know who was a big performer there? Tyreek Hill. 10 catches, 150 yards, and a touchdown. A pivotal moment in the game. Tyreek takes over, scores that touchdown, and away Miami goes to victory.
That's only his second 100-yard performance of the season. First one came in week number 1 against Jacksonville, where they picked up that victory 20-17. It started last week in the blowout loss to Green Bay. They got Tyreek Hill involved in the offense in the second half, continued this past weekend against New York, and they're going to have to start to getting Tyreek involved in the offense if Miami's going to make a playoff push.
That wrist injury we know bothering Tyreek Hill, but certainly not on that performance on Sunday. Another team we'll go to is Tampa Bay, as they took on Las Vegas, needing a victory and got that victory. And that's behind Rachaad White. 17 carries, 90 yards, and a touchdown, and added a receiving touchdown as well, Joe. Pivotal for filling in for Bucky Irving.
And they've won 3 straight by an average margin of victory of 13.1 points per game. They still play a very good opponent this coming weekend against L.A., but look for Rachaad White to be a dominant performer in the rushing attack, also utilizing the short to intermediate passing game, Donnie. Look for Tampa Bay to exploit that defense this weekend.
Tampa Bay climbing that mountain in the NFC South now looks to be the team to beat now, Tampa Bay. How about that? Let's go to another team in the NFC South, which took on a team in the Minnesota squad. And how about this, Joe? Sam Darnold, 22 of 28, 5 touchdown passes, no interceptions, a passer rating of 157.9.
Outdo Kirk Cousins making the return trip to Minnesota. This is a red-hot Minnesota team that has won 5 straight, Donnie. They've won those games by an average margin of victory of about 7.8 points per game. He kept his eyes down the field. Huge plays to Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson allowed Minnesota to dominate that matchup. And he's playing a team in Chicago where past performance, they got the victory, but Sam Darnold broke out with a 330-yard performance and 2 TDs, expected to continue this weekend.
Fantastic for Minnesota as they now sit at 11-2 on the season, fighting for the NFC North and certainly maybe for the number 1 overall seed in the NFC, and also could be a top performer during free agency. Watch out for Sammy D. For Joe Lisi and Donnie Rightside, back to you guys in Vegas.
You're watching Beat the Odds, sponsored by Superbook at the Westgate Las Vegas Resort and Casino, and powered by SportsGrid.
Hey, welcome back to Las Vegas, home of Beat the Odds. Scan that QR code. It's our website, beattheoddstv.com. Now back with some of the disappointing performances from last week. Here is SportsGrid.
Underperformers on Sunday afternoon. Let's talk about them. I'm Donnie Rightside. He's Joe Lisi. We'll start in Philadelphia versus Carolina, a team that was favored to win by at least 2 touchdowns. Didn't do that. And maybe the wide receivers could be helping out just a little bit more. A.J. Brown, as we take a look at on Sunday afternoon for Philadelphia, 4 catches for 43 yards. Joey actually led Philadelphia in receiving, but that's not good enough for A.J. Brown.
And certainly didn't catch a touchdown. That was Devontae Smith. Too many mouths to feed, Donnie. When you have Saquon Barkley rushing for over 100 yards and on pace to break the single-season rushing record, somebody's going to be left out of the equation. But this team has won 9 straight. Pivotal matchup this coming weekend against in-state rival Pittsburgh. We'll see how it plays out, but something tells me Jalen Hurts will find A.J. Brown this weekend.
Gotta do it here. Keep the wide receivers happy. We'll see if they can do that against Pittsburgh this coming weekend. Let's take a look at another game. The New Orleans squad goes into New York. You know what happened in this game? I thought Alvin Kamara was going to go absolutely nuts in this one. Yeah, he went nuts, all right. 17 carries for 44 yards against one of the worst defenses in the NFC in New York, Joe. Not good enough.
No, not good enough, especially with Dexter Lawrence out of that front 7 for the New York football team. You would expect a better performance, but they picked up the victory. New Orleans has won 3 of the last 4 games. They're 7.5-point underdogs this weekend against Washington. With Taysom Hill out of that offense, expect Alvin Kamara to not only run the football, but catch it out of the backfield.
Now, also, you're going to be leaning on him even more, as we said, with the Carr injury. My goodness, everybody's going down on that team. Feed Alvin Kamara. He needs to do much, much more. How about this? How much more can you do to have one of the best records in the NFL? It's Patrick Mahomes. My goodness, Kansas City. They win another game, 24 of 37, 210, and 1 touchdown, a passer rating of 88.8. All they do is win, but we need to see MVP Mahomes, Joe.
Absolutely, and it could happen this weekend against Cleveland. They're 5.5-point road favorites. This is a Cleveland team that allowed 27 points to Pittsburgh this past weekend. Pat Mahomes, especially when the game's on the line, steps up. Expect him to dominate this coming weekend.
And look, I hope they can dominate this weekend because they haven't shown it yet, but still probably going to wind up with the number 1 overall seed in the AFC, which is incredible. You're not even getting the best of Mahomes now with Kansas City and still winning football game after football game after football game. Let's hope some of these underperformers turn into overperformers in the next coming weeks here. I'm Donnie Rightside. He's Joe Lisi. Back to the guys out in Vegas.
All right, one's a cutie, one's a pain in the booty. You can decide which is which. It's Teddy against Jack in our player prop showdown. Today, you guys are going to debate Kyler Murray.
Let's talk about Kyler Murray. I like Murray over 222.5 passing yards. Look, he's gone over this number each of the last 4 games. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And there's certainly urgency for Arizona and urgency for Murray. He's off back-to-back multiple interception games, 3 straight losses. So this is a circle the wagons type of game for Arizona. New England's defense, number 25 in yards per pass attempt allowed. You can burn them through the air. And both these teams played at a relatively slow pace. What does that mean? That means this number's lower than it should be. Let's take advantage. 222.5 will go over with Kyler Murray.
Almost like he's arguing for me with the relatively slow pace, the low scoring that's going to happen. Also, wouldn't it be nice if it was just recency bias? That's all we had to care about the last 3 or 4 times. Kyler Murray's been throwing it all over the yard. Before that, he was under this number 6 of the previous 7 games, and his season totals are only 220 per game. I think this thing goes, this is like me going to the library. I immediately get tired, I take a nap in the back aisle, wake up when it's time to go to the next thing. No scoring, low
Like
scoring.
you know how to get to the library.
I found it a couple of times. It was like I had narcolepsy. I'm out.
Did you get lost?
I did, and I left immediately under the total.
Yeah. Sharp money's on the under for how many times that Fat Jack found the library.
I'm with Teddy on that bet. All right, hey, history is being made on Beat the Odds today. Teddy and Jack picked the same game for best bets. Uh-oh. Are we going to have another duel here? See which game they picked. That's next. All right, welcome back to Beat the Odds. This is big, you guys. Teddy and Jack have picked the same game for their best bets today.
Only have to watch 3 hours to get a couple of best bets.
Exactly. So do we need to separate the two of you, put you in different corners? Is this going to be okay?
We're Wonder Twins this week.
Oh.
We're going side and total.
Yeah.
Oh,
Same
wow.
game
Okay, so
parlay.
literally
All
we
right.
just have one game to watch this week. Teddy, start us off
So
with
you can
your best
either
bet.
both win or both lose.
Yeah.
Probably both win.
You both
That's what
may
we're going
disappoint
for.
us.
The goal is both win. Let's talk about Tampa Bay at LA. And look, +3 with Tampa right now. This team's been outstanding at stepping up in class. They've gotten the money and or won straight up. Detroit, KC, Philly, Washington, San Fran, they're hanging tough with the good teams. And of course, this Tampa running game is working right now. When the running game works, all of a sudden they score touchdowns in the red zone. Rashad White, Bucky Irving have made a difference. LA, they're in a nasty sandwich spot this week. Off of KC, a brutal loss with Denver up next, and skill position injuries a real problem for LA right now. I think Tampa is a live dog.
Watch this, comma. Tampa's been scoring against just about everybody. When they had played a light defense versus Cincinnati, they put up a ton of points. And LA can score when they need to. Look for this total to go over. Lots of points in this game. 8 of the last 9 in this series have also gone over. So Tampa and the over, a couple of best bets.
How are we feeling about that?
Put a comment.
I mean,
Are you confident in them too?
It's fine, but I will say if both of you are wrong, morale will be super low.
There's no
next
chance.
week. No chance.
I send very little,
Okay, so
small
let's
chance.
double down on both bets then.
Or
There's
not.
no chance. Or not.
There's always
See,
a
there's
chance.
some fear in his voice.
No,
He's
no,
not that confident.
I'm excited for Sunday afternoon. I hope you are as well.
I'm pumped.
And how much fear in your voice has nothing to do with how the games play out.
There we go.
Good luck.
Bible.
See you guys.